Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Katanga, and in today's video I am going to be doing critical appraisal for dummies. Okay, this is a quick fail-proof, fail-safe, what is it called, way to critically appraise any paper. After I did my video on intercalating video, I said how critical appraisal is the key to getting that first in your degree. Without it you can't get a first. And lots of you asked, how do you critically appraise? So this is the video that I promised that I would do. This is going to be perfect for those who are wanting to get a first in their biomed or intercalating medical degree, and also for those who are doing AFP. So let's just get right into it, and at the end I will be including some bonus tips as well, and you just pick and choose which parts you want to do, and I'll put the contents of the video here. You skip to wherever you want to skip to. Okay, let's go. So I've made it into this like cute diagram, so let's just run through it. So firstly, Pico. So Pico is the summary of the whole paper. So P stands for population. Who is the study investigating in? So you could say, for example, this study is called blah 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 in the journal blah blah blah, published 2020. This paper took 20,000 middle-aged male patients who smoke and did this. So that's your population, the number and the the criteria. Were they all male? Was it half male half female, which it should be? So then you have I, intervention. What did they do? So for example, we compared this new drug A, to placebo, or drug A to the drug that is already used in clinical practice. That's the intervention. So they gave half of the group this new drug for their migraines or heart condition or whatever. C, comparison. That's the control or comparison. So either it's placebo or it's the gold standard of care already. And O is the outcome. They found that drug A was better than drug B in preventing migraine, or they found that this new imaging software had higher sensitivity in detecting tumors in the brain, and I'll talk about sensitivity and specificity later on. Okay, so population, who is this investigation targeting? Intervention, what did they do? Control, comparison, what are they comparing it to? And what was the outcomes? What did they find? So you've already summarized everything, okay? And then now you're going to get into picking out the biases. So whether there is bias or whether there's not. So it's not only about criticizing a paper, it is about criticizing, but criticizing includes positives and negatives. So the biases that how you can remember it is by SPIES, okay? So S stands for selection bias. So there was one abstract that I was practicing with my friend the other day, shout out Connor, and it was about psilocybin, this like new drug to treat depression, and it said that the selection criteria for the people in this trial was those with major depression, but who had never had a psychotic episode, had never tried to commit suicide in the past, and there was never section for their depression. So you can already say that maybe they're trying to pick the best of the bunch, or the least complicated of the severe depression bunch, and that could be a little bit of selection bias. Do you get it? Like in real life, how many majorly those with major depressive disorder are never gonna try to commit suicide before, for example, so that can be selection bias. The next thing is performance bias. So this is avoided when the participants are blinded, but if they're not blinded, then performance bias is when the cohort change their behavior because they know that they are being experimented on. I believe this is the Hawthorne effect. You know, and sometimes it's impossible to blind patients because that would be unethical. So, you know, sometimes biases can't be avoided, but sometimes they can, and you can say whether that should have been avoided or not. I stands for information or detection bias, and that's when the different groups had different ways of detecting the outcomes. So for example, if there's one group that was having psychotherapy for their weekly psychotherapy for their anxiety, and another group was just having medication for their anxiety, and the way that you detect any adverse outcomes is by them telling a healthcare professional, well, that might not be fair because the first group were having interaction with a healthcare professional every week. So the maybe the healthcare professional asked them, oh, how are you doing? Any side effects? That's different to the second group who are maybe taking medication at home and had to ring the GP or something, or ring the psychologist to say, I'm experiencing this and this side effects. That would be information detection bias. Then we have E, which is exclusion bias or attrition bias, and I'll talk about this later on when we think about the hierarchy of evidence. But this is basically if you are looking at people's motivation to exercise, and then lots of people dropped out of the cohort study, then naturally the people that you're going to have at the end of the study, still in the study, are self-selected, probably more highly motivated people, and then your results can be skewed by that because of the people that have tended to leave your experiment. And then S is selective outcomes reporting bias, is when you only report the outcomes that you want, or you know, they say that they are going to investigate A, B, C, but they only report A and C, what happened to B. Okay, so that is that. And then you're going to go into summarizing the results. So you are going to say, are they statistically significant? So any for statistical significance, the null hypothesis, P must be below 0.05, okay? And that means that it's statistically significant. That means that you can trust that your null hypothesis is false. Do I agree with their conclusion? So this is internal validity. So in terms of in their experiment, do I agree? What can I use as an example here? Do their results line up with what they're saying their experiment shows? So internal validity is them showing a proper cause and effect through their sound methods and their sound reasoning, okay? External validity, then you talk about the results. How does it relate to clinical practice, i.e. how externally valid is this? If, like the example that I gave before, where we're looking at the treatment of a new drug for treatment-resistant major depressive disorder, major depression, and in that true example they said, oh, don't include those who've tried to commit suicide before. Well, then how generalizable is that? Because that's going to be a small proportion of those with major depressive disorder that have not tried to commit suicide before. So it's not very generalizable. Or for example, if it was only done in one center, then it's not generalizable because, you know, that was only done in one setting, whereas you want something that is done in multiple centers, maybe around the world, so you can generalize it across sexes, races, cultures, etc. And then at the end of this is just a bonus tip for the academic interview, they say, would you change your practice based on this paper? And you can say yes or no, but basically the thing is that you wouldn't change your practice based on just one paper alone. All right, and now I'm just going to quickly go into the hierarchy of evidence. I hope you're staying with me. The strongest to the least strongest type of study. So it goes systematic review, meta-analysis. Oh, you can't even read that. Then it goes randomized controlled trial, then a cohort study, then a case control study, and there are pros and cons to each one. If you want me to talk about the pros and cons, I'll comment them down. Let me know and I'll comment them down below, because I don't want to bore you in this video. This is supposed to be a quick fail-proof way. And yeah, and then now let me just talk about two things: sensitivity versus specificity. This always comes up. So sensitivity is how many true positives. So of those, for example, who actually have corona, is this swab test going to pick up those who truly have corona, true positives? Specificity is when it will only pick up those with corona and nothing else. So there's no false positives. So there's true negatives. Okay. And then intention to treat versus on treatment analysis. Intention to treat is if once you randomize two people to a group, so one to group to drug A and then the other to drug B, even if the people in drug A start to be non-compliant with their medicine and not doing or non-compliant with the intervention, you still include those results, because it's more, and the good thing about that, it's more lifelike, because in reality people don't take their drugs and don't do the interventions as they're supposed to. So it's more real life outcome. Or you have on treatment analysis where you only talk about the people who actually stayed compliant with the intervention and carried on with it, and the positive of that is that you're actually seeing the effect of the medicine. There's no other like confounding real life factors into it, but of course it loses external validity, especially if, for example, the medicine has side effects. In real life, a medicine having side effects is a real reason why somebody's not going to stay compliant with it. So we should kind of know if people the fact people stop the intervention or stop the drug is kind of important for us to know, because it shows how effective it will be in the real world. But then we can also think about who is maybe funding the experiment, and if it's a real big drug company who wants to shine a light on this like new fantastic antidepressant, then maybe they won't want to talk about that, because they want the best light to be shone on their drug, for example. And that's another thing that you can talk about when critically appraising, is that if there was any conflicts of interest, whether mentioned or not mentioned. So that was my whistle-stop tour of critical appraisal. I hope that was helpful. Comment down below if you have any questions, if I've said any terms that you don't understand. If there's any part, just feel free to save this video and come back to it when you have those essays planned. A bonus tip right here, because you made it to the end of the video, is make sure that as you're going through the term, you are writing down the papers mentioned in the lectures that the people give you. And then when you write down and make a note of that, just make a Word document, make a note of the paper that they've mentioned, and then just do one critical appraisal point. So what I've just run through is everything that you can do for a critical appraisal, and you'll have to do everything for your academic interview. But if you are biomed third year or intercalating, then you just have to do one or two of these points. You don't have to do the whole thing for every paper. Yeah, so that's the bonus point there. And then for those doing academic interviews, I've already told you that at the end they're going to ask would this paper thingy or modify your practice, and what you're going to say. And then also make sure that you just stay calm and practice beforehand so that it can seem and so that it can be second nature to you. So good luck everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Like if you liked this video, comment down below if you have any further questions. I'll respond straight away, and share with your mates who are also in the same boat as you, and subscribe so you can join the winning team, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.